Today's video will be a bit different from the usual reviews of individual books. As we have now finished taking a detailed look at the 8 novels of Peter F. Hamilton's wider Commonwealth series that is comprised of Misspent Youth, the Commonwealth Saga, the Void Trilogy, and the Chronicle of the Fallers, I thought that it would make sense to rank them in relation to each other. No specific metrics will be used, but it will instead be a rather personal assessment of the individual novels. It goes without saying that this ranking will therefore be biased, although I will try to briefly underline my reasons for the way the books will be ordered. Furthermore, there will be major spoilers for any of the discussed novels, so beware. The list starts with Misspent Youth on the 8th place. This is probably the book that was easiest to rank on my personal list, since it is clearly lacking in comparison to all of the other books. The world building and setting in the near future is not as developed. The plot is relatively self-contained and focused, thus not making use of Hamilton's mastery of intertwined narrative threads, and the characters are also nothing to write home about. Hamilton himself would probably agree with this description, especially in direct comparison to his other novels. After this clear-cut decision, we are now entering into the zone where just minor, most likely purely personal observations have led me to place one novel over the other. So, as a general caveat, the novels between rank 7 and 1 are all worth reading. With that out of the way, let us move on to the 7th place, where you can find The Evolutionary Void, or the 3rd entry to the Void Trilogy. The main reason for me to put The Evolutionary Void comparatively low on this list was that the quite interesting quasi-fantasy plot of Edeard took a turn for the worse once he obtained the ability to practically dial back time. There are some interesting premises, but they are not special or unique, and Edeard's story lost quite a bit of appeal to me. Furthermore, the main plot related to different human factions vying for control over the Void did pick up the pace, but not to that extent that it could counter the aforementioned decrease in quality of Edeard's plot, at least in my view. The Dreaming Void, or the 1st entry to the Void Trilogy, made the 6th place of this list. Here we kind of have the reverse of what happened to the Evolutionary Void, as Edeard's plot starts quite strong, but the overall story in the wider Commonwealth is rather convoluted, and we, as the reader, will have to proceed in the story quite a bit to get a rough idea who the different factions are, what their goals are, and how all the vastly different point of view characters relate to these factions and their goals. This is obviously a common problem for novels that pave the way for a longer series that is comprised of several volumes, but I think that this phenomenon was most striking in the Void Trilogy. On the 5th place we find Pandora's Star, the first novel of the Commonwealth Saga. Basically for similar reasons as we discussed previously for The Dreaming Void, the 1st entry to the Void Trilogy. Pandora's Star does a better job with regards to introducing the literary universe that we will spend time in. Certainly, Pandora's Star sports probably one of the best and most interesting prologues, which sets up the entire backdrop of the Commonwealth series. Nonetheless, Pandora's Star is not the main event, and the big narrative payoffs come later. The 1st entry to the Chronicle of the Fallers, The Abyss Beyond Dreams, is on the 4th place. It helps that The Abyss Beyond Dreams can draw from established characters and events as a general framework for the wider story. Furthermore, at this point it seems that Hamilton honed his craft over the years, thus introducing us to a completely new setting with its own rule set and culture embedded in the wider Commonwealth universe. But again, the big payoffs come later in the series. Thus, A Night Without Stars, the second book of the Chronicle of the Fallers, made the third place. Just to quickly interject, the top 3 novels are borderline interchangeable in their quality. I just had to come up with a way to order them though. A Night Without Stars has a very unique setting with an existentially threatened human colony governed by a totalitarian Soviet-style police state that employs discriminatory actions against those it deems to have obtained an unfair advantage due to their heritage of biotechnological enhancements. While there are some parts that can feel a bit like a fetch quest in the novel, this is more than compensated by a fast-paced main story and a superbly done dystopian and oppressive atmosphere, both stemming from the government and nightmarish alien invaders. To top it off, we get a worthy send-off to a multitude of characters of the wider Commonwealth series. On second place, we find The Temporal Void, the second entry to the Void Trilogy. There is just the right balance in quality between Iliad's plot and the story in the wider Commonwealth. At this point, we experience Iliad's plot with increasing stakes in a thriving medieval/fantasy setting that has been described to us in great detail. At the same time, we are now able to also understand what is going on outside in the wider Commonwealth, who the main players in this game of cloak and dagger are, and what the role of the various point of view characters could be in the future. As mentioned previously, balance. And finally, at the very top of my personal list, you can find Judas Unchained, the second and concluding book to the Commonwealth Saga. Judas Unchained is simply the book where most of the payoffs take place that were set up in its predecessor, Pandora's Star. The conclusion to the ongoing war between the Commonwealth and Morning Light Mountain, Ozzy's travels on the Sylvan Paths, the revelation of the Starflyer, and the culmination on Far Away as planned by the Guardians of Selfhood are just some of the highlights that made me place Judas Unchained on the top of the list. Well, there you have it, my personal ranking of the Commonwealth series. Interestingly enough, there are some outliers if we compare my personal ranking with the order of the books if we take the combined ratings based on Goodreads, Library Thing and Amazon reviews as a metric. Most notably, my assessment of the evolutionary void seems to be at odds with most of the wider public. But what are your thoughts? Do you agree or disagree with my personal ranking? Leave a comment if you want to chime in. If you liked this video, you may also enjoy the other reviews and content on my channel. Feel free to leave a comment if you want to discuss the novels or if you want to suggest other books that I should review in the future. Please consider upvoting and subscribing, it is much appreciated. Thank you for watching and until next time.